Hey guys, welcome back to LastWordOnSports.com's official YouTube channel. I want to talk to you a little bit about championships droughts today. As a fan of virtually every sport on the planet, I follow teams that are very successful and some that are completely opposite. Over the past few days, I've been thinking a lot about the Chicago Cubs and being a Cubs fan, and thinking about Theo Epstein and taking over control of the team as far as presidency and general manager. And I started thinking about, well, what would happen if the Chicago Cubs were to win the World Series? Is it really that much of an advantage for them and their fan base or the franchise as a whole, or will there be very little effect? Or is it actually advantageous that they don't win the World Series as part of their history, their mystique, their aura, based around the fact that they haven't won in 103 years? The story of the Curse of the Goat, that also adds to the mystique of the team. So I started thinking about other franchises and whether or not it's actually advantageous if they were to win or not. So kind of that's what I want to focus on today. So looking at some of the teams in the various sports, in baseball we have the aforementioned Cubs, and we also have the Cleveland Indians being the second longest drought. In the NFL, we have the Arizona Cardinals, the Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions, and Philadelphia Eagles. In Toronto, of course, we have the very historical and extremely successful Toronto Maple Leafs. And finally, in basketball, we have the Sacramento Kings. I actually had to look that one up. I wasn't sure about basketball. There are a couple teams I thought were a little bit longer, but anyway, it was Sacramento. So anyway, getting back to my original daydream, I wonder if there would be an advantage to these teams winning their championships, or whether it's advantageous that they didn't. So I kind of look at these teams and put them into two different groups. The first group being teams that I think definitely need to win a championship in order for their team's long-term success. And so I fit the Arizona Cardinals, Detroit Lions, Cleveland Browns, and Sacramento Kings in this group. I think that all of these teams would greatly benefit from a championship, and it would probably last for many years. Now, I can't see any of them being perennial championship teams or dynasties, just because they don't have the support from the ownership level. But I think that they would all benefit greatly from the championship. So let's leave them and go to the teams that actually I don't think really need it in order to be successful. That these teams will always be part of their respective sports, and there's very little chance of them leaving or moving or folding. But out of these teams, I also put them into two separate categories. I started thinking them in two different ways. First, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs and Chicago Cubs, who will always be NHL team and a Major League Baseball team. They will always be successful, and there will never be a chance of them ever moving. And I started thinking about whether or not it's important that they win. So we'll kind of put them to the side for just a second and focus on the two teams that I think would benefit more than the other two from winning a championship, but at the same time they will always be permanent fixtures in their sports, that being the Cleveland Indians and Philadelphia Eagles. So the Indians, obviously they've gone many years without winning a World Series. But they've always seemed to have up and down years, yet in the long run, their fan base is always going to be there. They obviously went through a period of great success in the mid to late 90s. I think they had something like 380 consecutive sellouts. I think it was 380. But regardless, they were wildly popular, wildly successful. And while their numbers have dropped off a little bit as of late, just because of the team's performance and perhaps the economy, they still generate pretty good revenue, and they are a well-attended team. I did go and see a game in Cleveland against the Blue Jays, and I didn't think the Blue Jays would be a very big draw, but actually the stadium was really packed, so that was good to see. So I think Cleveland is always going to be a permanent fixture of Major League Baseball. The Philadelphia Eagles, I kind of think the same thing. I think their attendance right now is at 103% capacity. So obviously that means standing room. But the Eagles don't necessarily have to be a Super Bowl caliber team, or even well, I suppose that these last couple years with Michael Vick, that's definitely helped attendance, but certainly their attendance has always been fairly strong. Philadelphia is a very powerful sports market, and I think that drives the Eagles, and I don't think they would ever have any difficulty maintaining their franchise. And so I guess that leaves us with the Chicago Cubs and Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs obviously have an extremely strong ownership group with the Teachers Union, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, and I think the Toronto Maple Leaf brand is so ingrained in Canadian culture that they have absolutely no need to win the Stanley Cup in order for them to be successful. Having not won one in 44 years, yet they are just as popular as ever. I think that's a testament to how important they are to the culture. We happen to live in the middle of Maple Leaf territory in southern Ontario, and I have many friends who are Maple Leafs fans, and we're also inundated on the TV and radio, and and the fact that they haven't won in so long, and people are still talking about them, and they're still on every radio station, and every time you turn the TV, something about the Leafs. I think that just proves the point that they don't necessarily have to win. And the same goes for the Cubs. The Cubs are obviously have always had a very good attendance. There's ups and downs, of course, but despite the fact that they're not a very good team right now, they're sub 500, and yet they still have over 90% capacity attendance. They play during the day, which is typically harder to draw, but of course there are a few markets that are more day teams, like Chicago, New York, and Boston. So they can definitely support that, and I think given the nature of the team and the fact that they have not won in 103 years, that's something of a rallying cry for Cubs fans. That's something that they can hold on to. It's part of their identity, part of the mystique and the for lack of better words, the identity of the team is based on their World Series drought, coupled in fact with the Curse of the Goat. Of course, if you don't know the story of the Curse of the Goat, a very long story short, a guy was at one of the Cubs games of World Series, and he was asked to leave because of the odor that was caused by his goat, and so he put a curse on the Cubs organization. And they haven't won since, and so anyway, whether or not that has anything to do with it, I'm not sure, but that definitely is part of the lore of the Chicago Cubs. So I think that obviously with the Maple Leafs and Cubs, if they were to win the Stanley Cup, they would be able to really profit on the fact that they've won, and it's been so long since they have won. They would certainly make some extra revenue. So I'm certainly not arguing that they wouldn't, but I don't think that it's necessary for them to win a championship at all for them to remain profitable and highly successful organizations. So I guess that's what it comes down to. So I guess that's it for me right now. I don't think this conversation is done. I would love to hear what you have to say about these teams. Perhaps you think otherwise, or maybe you agree with me. So either way, if you would add your comments to the bottom of this video, I would love to be able to update it in the future and kind of reflect on these organizations and think whether or not it is important that they win, or whether or not it's actually a good thing that they don't. So, if you can check out lastwordonsports.com to see the full article. I go into a little more detail and have some statistics to back up some of what I'm saying right now. So if you head over there, you can see the full article. As always, if you could please subscribe, share, and I'm on Twitter as well, at lastwordmike. If you could add me on Twitter, that'd be fantastic. You can get all the updates from our website directly to your Twitter account. Okay, guys, so have a good one. Thanks for watching, and please feel free to join the conversation.